Welcome back, everyone. Well, we've made it. Like virtually every other YouTuber on the planet that covers ARK, we have ended up on the Crystal Isles map. And I can't even be mad. This map is gorgeous. At least the area that I've seen so far is it's filled with a multitude of low islands with plenty of flat building area, mixed with towering white rock escarpments here and there. It's gorgeous. Here, let me show you where we're at on the Crystal Isles wiki. We are starting out in the very peaceful White Shoals area. And if you're starting with fresh characters, this area is ideal for that purpose. Well, ideal as long as you stay alert in or near the water. Like almost all bodies of water on ARK, your mental mantra should be Jaws and Claws, my friend. Jaws and Claws. This spot, where my cursor's at, is perhaps the best spot in this entire area for a starter community base. It's on the largest rock escarpment in the vicinity. The green dots are spawn locations, and I spawned in right here next to that little path you can see going inland. Be careful if you spawn in here, as Spinos, Baryonyx, Sarcos, and Capros spawn in great numbers nearby. Fortunately, away from the water, about the worst you'll ever run into is the occasional Dino. In this video, we'll take a look at how I developed this rocky outcrop as a multi-level community base. And if we have time, maybe we'll take a look at the nearby shallow sea beside it and this deeper underwater gorge next to it. If we don't have time for that in this video, I'll come up with a quick follow-up video just to touch on those places briefly in the next day or so. This chunk of rock, I don't know what it's supposed to be. I don't know, maybe limestone? Anyway, it truly is enormous, with 3 distinct levels towering above the surrounding low islands. There are large swaths of flat, buildable land on all 3 levels, with the first level and the top levels being by far the largest. Perhaps one of the best things about this location is that there's only one way up to the top by foot. There's a broad, white sand pathway that smoothly ascends with easy access to each level in turn on the way up. In fact, if you follow that path I was standing on at the very beginning of this video, it curves around and eventually leads you directly to the base of that ramp going up. There's even a little metal that spawns here and there on the top level, but you should probably be aware that there's only one water source on the escarpment itself, and that's right here, on the southern tip of the first level. Fortunately, there's also water that surrounds this escarpment on 3 sides, so you can run plumbing down easily enough. And that also ought to make those of you that prefer to do your initial exploration of a map by raft fairly happy as well. Just so you have a clear mental picture of it, here's that white sand path going in from the beach that I described, the one where I spawned in. And here are the coordinates from the base of the ramp that gives you access to the escarpment. A couple of days have passed since I first arrived here, and in that time, with Eco's help, I've thrown together this quick and dirty idea for what a starter community base might look like in this location. First off, the path leading to the escarpment entry ramp is now home to the first leg of what will eventually be a land caravan that links all of my land accessible bases here on the Crystal Isles. With the mods I'm running, these are all local tames. Why a caravan, you ask? Well, why not? The first area I put together was right on the top level where the path lets out. It's primarily a breeding area, with room for all of the accompanying equipment that goes with that. Most of the creatures in the caravan down below were bred here. I left plenty of room for more pens and hitching posts, along with a few areas for players to live in. In the center section of the escarpment top, I placed Eco's Babylonian Hanging Gardens as a super fast way of providing an area to house all of the mechanical equipment and storage that a new community would need, It's beautiful and functional, with plenty of room for even the largest items, and a cliff platform beside it provides a handy landing platform. At the southernmost point of this overgrown piece of chalk, the ground is a little rougher, so I reserved it for my personal use. Eco's King's House works just as well on a few foundations to smooth things out, and the cliff platform was easy to place due to a rocky rise in front of it. And yes, for those of you interested in building cliff platforms, fungal wood is easy to find in the adjacent biomes. I chose this location for my first personal home primarily because of the incredibly beautiful view this point affords. Although, like most things in the Crystal Isles, even that can occasionally get ominous. But fortunately, even that clears up quickly, returning to its normal, beautiful state. Well, another couple of days has passed, and since this video is doing pretty well on time, I guess it won't hurt to show you the result of my efforts to flesh out that community base idea I was yammering on about. I figure that while the breeding and manufacturing outposts up here on top of the escarpment are all well and good, I also know that most gamers tend to be like me, just a wee bit lazy most of the time when picking where to build. So I figured I'd build the actual community part of this community base near the only water source on the rock, and that's directly below this point on the first level. Yes, as some of the more observant of you may have surmised, I have been messing about with a little project on those tabletop-like islands out there in the middle of the shallow sea. And I've started an experimental sea base in the deeper waters of the trench below the south point. You may have also noticed that I started an air taxi route in addition to my land-based caravan route, and it eventually will connect all of my bases in each area of the Crystal Isles, whether they're accessible by land or not. I'd show you those, but it's getting late, and this video is already coming out a day late, so I think I'll make a short follow-up video that shows you what I've been up to along those lines. To be honest, it's nothing too fancy. Mostly just proof of concept type stuff concerning building with some mods I haven't used before. But you might find it interesting. Don't worry, I'll keep it really short. As far as this community base goes, again, with Eco's help, it only took a couple of hours to put together. I purposefully designed it not only with a general living and manufacturing area, but also some higher class dwellings along the cliffside, plus a couple of really nice dwellings on slightly raised ground that have a magnificent view for those that fancy themselves to be in charge of things. There's nothing quite like sowing the seeds of a little internal strife here and there along the way. So I guess I'll leave it here for now. I hope you found it helpful in choosing where to start your next community or personal base, at least as far as the White Shoals area of this map is concerned. I'd like to explore and build in every major area of this map, so this is liable to be a fairly long-term series. I hope that's okay. I'll let you guys go for now. And until I see you again, good hunting.